Well, welcome to the fuck up club, boys and girls. That may be the line of this episode. It's either that or another line spoken by the coxswain, which I'll get to. That line was actually from Prenton, but it's the only way to open this review. So this is going to be my review of episode 5 of Vigil. So the penultimate episode of this season, this series anyway. There is actually talk of a second series. Apparently Soraya Jones has hinted at that. I'm not quite sure what that would entail, but it's sort of been put out there anyway. Maybe not surprisingly, because I'm sure this is doing some good ratings for the BBC. So episode 5, full spoilers as always, and I'll say things are sort of ramping up quite nicely as we go into like the home straight towards next week's finale, because this was a much better episode for me, including some of the stuff on the Submarine. I didn't like all of it, but the stuff with Amy and the stuff on the Submarine was a little more engaging, a little more exciting this week, particularly at the end of the episode. So I'll start with that stuff, and I'll start talking about our favourite crooked-looking Scouser, which is, of course, the coxswain who I mentioned before, because he basically, at the end of last week's episode, rugby tackled poor old Amy, which was absolute sick when she found Jackie was dead, and obviously he's got this sort of shady motivation potentially for killing Jackie, but he claims he didn't. He says he found her and she had a tin open, and that there was a whole sort of like contamination and link, and basically saying we're going into nerve gas territory. So a mysterious nerve gas has been released onto the ship, and not Amy, but Jackie did it before it obviously killed her, and that's his story. Now Amy like questions this, but he's like, no, we've got to lock down the ship. I'll answer your questions later, and he claims his sort of innocence. He says, well, why wouldn't I have like killed you off, just locked you in like a cabin or something if I wasn't interested, if I was guilty, which actually is a fair sort of point, but then it's maybe the sort of thing you might do to make yourself look innocent. But in any case, as things go along, it actually seems like he might be telling the truth, the old scallywag. In fact, pretty much confirmed by the end of the episode. So he gives his story to the captain, and he's there with Amy, and what ends up happening is they convince the captain to let them go down where this stuff has spread, like down in like the water or the cabin, to try and find the suits that have been contaminated. Amy says she's doing it because she needs to analyse the scene and make a report, because her whole thing is we need to stop this from happening again. So that's why I need to be involved. And the coxswain obviously wants to go down as an official thing to like get the suits and get them out. And there's this stuff, I guess this all feels very sort of relatable because of recent events in the world, but there's this stuff where the doctor is insisting him and Amy get that like showered like with their clothes on for like 2 minutes, and she's sort of running through all these things with the coxswain to do with basically we don't have this stuff on board, so if it turns out you have been affected, then you're basically screwed. But the other line of the episode is when the coxswain just randomly says to Tiffany, the doctor's name is, the one he's been having the affair with, he says to her, hey, by the way, I just want to say, if I've been a prick, I'm sorry. So that's tied with the other line, the line about, well, welcome to the fuck up club from Prenton. I think I like Prenton's lines a bit more, but it's out of those two. And let's face it, you need some light relief and some entertaining dialogue, especially in a show like this, which is all very dry, deadly serious. So you have all that stuff, and that's because later on Coxon admits to the affair with Tiffany, and that's when Prenton comes out with that great line and great delivery. Because what happens is, on the one hand, the captain, Newsom, agrees to let Amy officially come back on board and investigate again because he's convinced that she's fit again now. The doctor kind of backs her up a bit, just says what she needs to do. And also he brings Prenton back on board to be his second in command. He sort of justifies it, says, well, we could do with his experience and he's a good guy to have around. It's a little bit weak, and it just feels like it's just done for kind of drama because he's like a character and he's another sort of personality, which I don't mind because I quite enjoy his character, but in a way, it just from a plot point of view, it kind of doesn't. It either doesn't add up or it doesn't really do a lot. It's just like an extra face, an extra voice, just to speak dialogue in a way rather than. I guess he sort of has authority because he's the number 2, but it didn't really feel like it was doing too much. So you have this stuff on the ship with obviously Amy and the coxswain going down below to find this stuff, and this sort of highlights part of my problem with sort of this drama, but also submarine dramas. I mean, it might just be, as it happens, that I don't think this has been very sort of compelling anyway, but it is a problem with the genre where for whatever reason I just don't find submarine stories that interesting. And so there is this problem in this where they're talking about all this contamination type stuff, and they come up with this theory that they link Jackie to the whole thing because she's got the son in Indonesia, and they kind of say, well, that's this neutral location where he could have had access to this stuff from Russia and then sent it to her, and obviously there's evidence there. It's maybe still a little bit of a stretch, but it is sort of confirmed later. But anyway, Amy and the coxswain go into this thing, and it's just not very interesting to watch, to be honest. You might as well just put the Benny Hill music over it. It's not really very engaging. But anyway, they get to the coats and they sort of shove them out, and they're going crazy with as soon as they say let's get out, it's the Silkwood sort of shower type things they've got running. But anyway, what they sort of come to, which is actually quite well done and quite dramatic, to be fair. I did sort of like this reveal, or this idea, is then Amy finds a note which seems to be a note threatening Jackie, and she gets the idea that Jackie was getting cold feet and wanted out of the whole sort of plot. So it's this idea, hey, there must have been someone else. And she concludes that what probably happened is then Jackie was there to kill off Burke, and that's because then that guaranteed a replacement being flown in, and that replacement, obviously he's already on the ship. I can't remember his last name actually, but Downand, something like that. But so she comes to the conclusion that then he must be the other person, the other Russian spy type thing. So that was actually quite a nice reveal and quite effective in the way it played out. So you get this stuff where it's actually quite dramatic to watch. I'll give them this because it was a really satisfying sort of ending to the episode with her, because the coxswain they've been warned of overheating previously, and he starts sweating and overheating right before they get out of there. But so Amy starts running down the hallway dramatically with this evidence to get it in time, to whoever. But in the end, she just obviously she sort of collapses, and someone takes it off her, and she's like, "No, no, not that. That's evidence." And of course, it's the guy. It's the Burke replacement, the Russian spy guy, and he knocks her out, and he only goes and puts her in like the tube, like the torpedo tube. Oh my god. Amy could really be seafood by the time we get to next week. Possibly not if we're going to get a second series, and I suspect she will get out of it somehow. But that's the cliffhanger of the episode, and I'll give them marks for that one. It was a nice reveal with the whole, hey, there must be someone else on board who's a Russian spy, and a nice dramatic ending with her in the torpedo chute, and credit to Soraya Jones because she sells the hell out of it. It was a great end actually to a much better episode. So let's talk about the stuff with Kirsten, the on-land stuff, and what it all amounts to is that she's trying to track down the real Ericsson or Exxon, the Russian intelligence guy who of course has diplomatic immunity. So that becomes like her sort of main plot for the episode, where she eventually sort of tracks him down because he has a season ticket at like this local sporting club. It's like the Glasgow Hurricane. Now, if anyone's listening to this, do let me know if this is a real sporting club. Looking at the arena, I kind of guessing it's either like a hockey club or it's like, well, no, not rugby, because it seemed more like an arena court type thing. So I'm going to say either hockey or like basketball. Maybe because it's a British thing, maybe it's more likely to be hockey. But yeah, let me know if anyone knows if the Glasgow Hurricanes are a real sporting club and what they play, because it's never actually confirmed. But she tracks this information down about him, that he was a season ticket holder and that he had guests every now and again, and it's a little bit convoluted, but what they sort of do is they like encourage like anyone online to like send out photos, because they're saying, well, nowadays everyone's taking selfies or photos of the crowd, and they've got this really advanced like technology on their phones, so that they just send out messages apparently on the internet to encourage anyone to send out like a photograph if they happen to have shot, got a picture of like where he was sitting, and of course drama, so it's obvious it's going to lead somewhere, and they do get a photograph back, and it's him with this guy Ben, this guy who Kirsten knows about from the refugee camp. She's seen him before, so that sort of twigs, because that means there's obviously a link to her or to him and Jude, so that they sort of chase this guy up, but he's already gone to the politicians, the ones who had like a link to Jude, and he sort of and this is confirmed that the Russians are coming about. The Russians are like circling and after Vigil. So this is like the story he tells these politicians, and his whole like argument is like saying, well, this trident, this defense, it isn't working, and we need to get the message out there. So they film like this political like message on this video, and then he's basically saying, the Russians are going to be after me. I need to get to ground. I need to get to like a neutral sort of thing, and I need diplomatic immunity, basically. So they end up, it's sort of funny because there's this thing where they think they're taking him to like the Russian embassy, but they're actually taking him to the Chinese embassy. And in any case, it's this swerve, obviously, and later on Kirsten tells her, no, this guy took the photo off Jude's computer, so he stole it. and he's been handing intelligence to the Russians, so he's actually working for the Russians, and that's the guy who you've just let go to the embassy, the Chinese embassy. So unless they get to this guy in time, he will have diplomatic immunity, god damn it. And again, I've sort of criticised some of the politics and working real worlds. It's like, oh, come on, the Russians are coming. Come off it, guys. Come up with something a bit less on the nose and a bit less. But whatever, it's a decent enough plot. And that's kind of the cliffhanger on that side of the plot, with them trying to get to this Ben character in time. And you also, again, get some of the typical flashback stuff and some melodrama with Kirsten and with Poppy, who's like the daughter of Amy, because it's her birthday, and Poppy, which is a nice touch, but she actually takes Poppy a present because Amy obviously can't, and she explains why she can't. But there's also this awkward conversation about like custody, and apparently Amy's parents didn't know that, or sorry, I think it's like her dead husband's parents, but they didn't know then Amy had split up with Kirsten. So there's that stuff as well. But yeah, much better episode, as I said, and it did have a satisfying cliffhanger ending. So that's Vigil for the week. Let me know your comments, your thoughts on the episode in the comments below. Let me know what you think could happen in the finale, and if you're looking forward to it. Also, do you want a season 2, or do you think this should be like a standalone season and they just wrap it up? Do you think there's much room for more, is what I'm asking. Let me know that in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. Share me out on social media. You can also ding the bell on YouTube to get more notifications. But I'll be back next week for the finale of Vigil. Take care, guys. See you later.